Hello and welcome to the official Haters Euro 2024 Daily Show. I'm your host, Aaron Goldstein, and I'm joined by Haters journalist Raf Tyndale in the studio today. Reminder, we are live every single day as we bring you live action, interviews, players. We've got it all covered as we partnered with SofaScore as well. Let's start with reviewing last night's action. Raf, what did you make of Germany last night?
Well, I mean, I think it's an amazing way to open a tournament. I think a 5-star performance, 5 goals. I think they'll be a little bit disappointed to have conceded that late own goal from Rudiger. But I mean, 72.8% possession. Nagelsmann's clearly implemented his philosophy. I think, the fans got behind them and they gave them a show. I mean, what a way to open a tournament, the biggest opening tournament win in history. I mean, in Euros history. I just think the youthful exuberance of Wirtz, Musiala, is complemented by the know-how of Kroos, Gundogan and Neuer. And I just think it's all coming together for the Germans.
Very quick pointer for all of those watching at home. I've been in the studio with you now for the last hour, and you've been taking notes like mad.
I have.
So any questions, any comments, please do get them in. He will be prepared for you.
I will.
Yeah, I'm setting him a challenge here. For every German positive, there was a Scotland negative, though, no?
Yeah, I would say so. It was definitely a difficult night for Scotland. I think, I don't know whether it was a fluke performance. I think they still have a chance in this group, but I think it was overall a very good German performance and a bad Scotland performance. Obviously, it was 5-1, but I think they couldn't do much to stop them. Obviously, the red card didn't help. It's never going to. But I mean, in my opinion, I think the game was probably gone by then anyway. Lots of negatives for Scotland, but they can rally. They've still got a chance in this group. There's obviously the third place finishers, the top few get into the round of 16. So we'll see.
Well, yeah, we'll touch on them again in a second. But Haters have partnered with SofaScore, as I said, the most amazing app for in-game stats. For if you're a football nerd or if you're a football casual, it is the app for you. Their player of the match last night, based on stats, was Kai Havertz. I think we heard from him, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Let's go to the Kai Havertz stats on the screen now. 63 minutes played and the highest performing player on the pitch. Scored a goal, got an assist. What a season he had for Arsenal as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as you say, the best statistical player on the pitch last night. I mean, he's Germany's number 9 for this tournament. That's been clear for a while now. I mean, I personally thought he should have taken the chance in the 90th minute, but he did sort of make amends, laying it off to Musiala, who rifled it into the net for their second goal. 14 goals, 7 assists for Arteta's Arsenal this season. It did take him a little bit of time to adjust and settle into the system, but then he played a pivotal role in their sort of, in their running, and obviously they were pipped to the title on the last day. But I mean, he converted his penalty coolly just before half-time, and there's no reason why he can't sort of kick on and be a real contender for the Golden Boot, as you predicted.
Yes, I mean, I'm very good at predicting things. It did look, though, that Gundogan might have taken that penalty if he hadn't been injured in that whole red card conundrum.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the best penalty taker in the German squad?
Well, I mean, it is hard to look past Gundogan. I mean, I probably would go for him just because he's done it on the biggest stage. He's experienced. He's calm. He's collected. But that being said, in front of however many German fans there were there last night, quite a few in the Allianz Arena, Havertz did the job. He slotted it down the middle. No chance to keep it really. So I think it's good to have lots of contenders for penalty takers, especially in tournament football. Who knows what might happen? So yeah, I think I'd probably go for Gundogan, but Havertz is definitely up there too.
One player somewhat familiar with Kai Havertz is, of course, Kieran Tierney. We heard from him after the game.
Last player. I'm not, to be honest, I trained with him for a few weeks, but I'm not surprised at how well he's done because you could see that. And yeah, he's done well, and I'm sure he'll go on to have a great tournament.
Thank you, folks.
Nice one.
That was a pretty deflated Kieran Tierney, but I mean, he's got all the praise in the world for Havertz. Do you think Scotland have a chance?
I think it's difficult to say. I mean, they need to rally very quickly. Obviously, losing sort of 5-1 in your opening game is not what you want. But I mean, it's really not what you want. But I mean, it's an interesting group. Obviously, we've got the second game in Group A kicking off in about an hour's time, sort of Hungary versus Switzerland. I think they definitely have a chance. I think they might, possibly squeak through as the third place finishers. I'm not sure about second. Steve Clarke, he says we need 4 points. But with performances like that yesterday, it's hard to see where they're going to come from. I guess we'll find out, sort of the qualities of each team in an hour's time, but it's difficult to see.
I'm really excited for this one, actually.
I think it'll be good.
Steve Clarke says 4 points. You've got to remember, in 2016, Portugal won the Euros and they got 3 points in the group. The third place team coming through is a massive game changer. Scotland, you can't write them off just yet. But again, maybe we'll come back to Kieran Tierney a little bit later on in the show as we speak a little bit more about our transfer gossip. But we did also hear from the main man himself, Kai Havertz.
They're a very good side. They have strong players. They already won a lot of trophies, and we knew it would be a tough opponent. Obviously, I think we started quite well. First goal, I think in the first 15 minutes was important to us. Then after the red card, maybe it got even a bit easier for us. So all in all, I think still they have a good chance to go through, and I think we all wish them all the best.
He's just being polite there, isn't he?
I think so. I think Arsenal are very good media training, it seems. And obviously, he doesn't want to fall out with his teammates. So, I think he's being polite. I mean, I think he has a point. They are, they're a good side. Any side that makes it to a tournament is obviously a good side. You have to go through qualifying. They were very impressive in qualifying. I think they have a chance to go through, as we've just spoken about. But it's an uphill battle, definitely.
I mean, out of the goals from last night, I mean, I'm assuming you're not a goalkeeping expert, but do you think Gunn could have done better?
I think the first one, obviously, he sort of tips it. Just he tips Wirtz's shot. It still ends up going in. I think, you can always sort of look back with rose-tinted glasses and with hindsight. And I think maybe that first shot he could have done better. I think Fulkrong shit. You're not stopping that. Musiala's, you're not stopping that. A penalty can go either way. Maybe with Chan's final goal, we could have done a bit better. But I mean, it was a bad day at the office for everyone on the Scottish team.
I'm glad you mentioned the Dortmund striker there, because he comes on and he scores a ridiculous goal. It is ridiculous. Is there a shout for him to play ahead of Havertz? Because Havertz is a joke. We all know that. But since Nagelsmann's come into the German team, no player has scored more than Fulkrug. Does he deserve a place in the 11?
I mean, I think this is having a selection headache is by no means a bad thing. Obviously Gareth Southgate is feeling the same thing at the moment. I think he definitely deserves a chance. He enjoyed a very good season with Dortmund, obviously reaching the Champions League final. I mean, Havertz is good. He's in very good form. He's coming off sort of a very good goal scoring form with Arsenal. I think he does deserve the chance, but also, it's a blessing, not a curse, having two in-form strikers.
They're very different players as well. I actually captained Kai Havertz on Euro Fantasy Football last night, so good 18-point haul.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Scotland manager Steve Clarke also seemed a little bit deflated. We heard from him after the game as well.
Disappointed. Feel as though we've let ourselves down. We're better than that. We're a better team than that we showed tonight, and hopefully we can show that in the next two games. So we have to go away. This is always going to be a tough night for us to get something. We need 4 points from the next two games, and that's what we focus on.
4 points in the next two games. He's bang on with that 4 points.
He is.
You've got to remember though, Scotland are not actually that bad. Last night you wouldn't think it. No. But they beat Spain in qualifying.
They did.
Who are, pretty good at football themselves. Scotland are now in League A of the Nations League. That's a league above England. Did Scotland let themselves down? Did the occasion get to them? What was it?
I think it's a mixture of things, really. I mean, I think, it's the opening tournament in Germany. You're playing Germany. It's a massive occasion. The fans, the German fans are always going to get behind the team this summer. They're going to be the 12th man every single time. I'm sure, the sound in there must have been absolutely amazing. I think definitely the occasion got to them. You could see that, the Germans, they looked, pinpoint game plan and knew exactly what they were doing. They sort of implemented this sort of Gurgen pressing, as Nagelsmann is known for. As soon as they lost the ball, they were straight back on it. They wanted it back. And that shows by 72.8% possession. That is a crazy stat. I think, maybe they let themselves down a little bit, but I think they were just overcome by the sheer sort of dominance and quality of the German squad.
Because what was crazy as well, if you were watching on TV last night, Ali McCoist said that he was insinuating that the Scotland coaching staff were angry because they didn't take a set piece and just fling it into the box. Scotland then get a set piece, fling it into the box, and they score.
Yeah.
Is that what Scotland should be doing moving forward?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be a very different game versus Hungary and versus Switzerland than it is versus Germany. They were obviously always going to be the underdogs in this game. I think they can come in with a bit more confidence in these final two remaining group stage games. I think they probably should have implemented a game plan like that yesterday, because I think they were never going to have the ball. They were never going to have. I think they had 2 touches in the opponent's box in total throughout the entire game. That's quite a telling stat. But I think they scored from a set piece when they flung it in, as you say. So I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So maybe they can carry on doing that.
Well, yesterday on the show, we touched on Florian Wirtz. We also spoke about Kai Havertz at length. But one player that kind of went under the radar and then scored, a banger was Jamal Musiala. What a player. He was in the mix zone at full time.
Of the youngest players of the tournament, and how are you going to handle the pressure and the expectations after this first match? And do you set any...
One question is enough, please. How are you handling it? How you handle this pressure? Being so young?
Yeah, I think for me, I have so much quality in the team that that can help me. I think we all carry some pressure on our shoulders, and we all work for each other. And when I'm on the pitch and we're all having fun working for each other, you don't feel the pressure.
Well, after a performance like that, are Germany now your favourites?
I mean, for me, I think they were always some of my favourites. I think obviously the bookies have them third place, best to win this tournament behind England and France. I mean, I think, yeah, they've got to be up there. I would have said yesterday that maybe quarterfinals would have been, the absolute minimum. But with a performance like that, I think it has now become semi-finals. They're the host nation. Host nations tend to do well in their own tournaments. I think they've got a real chance of going far.
Well, there are plenty more clips available on the Haters YouTube channels. And I believe we heard from the likes of Thomas Müller as well. He touched upon how bad Germany have been over the last few tournaments. Is it the home advantage pushing them through? They'd have beaten Scotland anyway, we assume.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you think that if they weren't playing at home, the pressure would be off?
I think it's an interesting question, because I think there's sort of, you get the best of both worlds. Well, maybe not the best of both worlds, but yes, there is pressure playing in front of your home fans. Of course there is. But it also gives you that extra boost. It gives you the 12th man. So I think if it were me, I would rather be playing, in my home country. I mean, the noise that they made and getting behind the team, it's massive. I can imagine, sort of, and even just things like Havertz scoring that penalty, if he's in front of sort of 90,000 England fans at Wembley, I'm sure it's going to be much harder to convert than, however many German fans at the Allianz Arena. I think they're a very strong team, and they have a very good chance of going far in this tournament. I wouldn't be surprised they're lifting the trophy on their home soil.
Well, no player last night really got themselves far and ahead running for the Golden Boot. It was just a goal apiece.
Yeah.
If you had to bank on one German player winning the Golden Boot, who's your favourite?
If I had to bank on one German player, I think I'm probably going to go with what you predicted yesterday. I think Havertz is going to have a very strong tournament. And we actually do have a poll going on at YouTube at the moment of who the Haters TV viewers think will be the Golden Boot winner. And let's have a look at that. So we've got only four candidates, but if you have any more, please feel free to comment them. So we've got Harry Kane, Ronaldo, Mbappe, or Wirtz. Excuse me, my laptop has just been a bit annoying. But so far we have 19 votes, and we have Harry Kane leading the charge with 42% of the votes, followed by Cristiano Ronaldo. Most likely his last international tournament. He's going to want to go out with a bang.
Never know with him.
This is true. That man is a physical specimen, to say the least. Kylian Mbappe third, and then Florian Wirtz. Oh no, excuse me. Florian Wirtz is actually coming with 16%, and then Mbappe with 11. I mean, quite strange to write off Mbappe. Golden Boot winner at the last World Cup, obviously scoring a hat trick in the final is pretty. It's a pretty impressive feat that I think not many of us could replicate. But
you never know. If you stuck me in that French squad,
this is true. This is true. With the creative talent they have, lace up my boots and I'll be ready.
I thought you were going to be complimenting me, but fine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe people that were watching the show yesterday will have taken the note that Mbappe may be out of the first game. That is just a rumour. But if they were listening, then maybe that's altered their opinion. But anyway, let's go on to today's first fixture, which is Hungary versus Switzerland. The team news is in, and kickoff is just under an hour away. Raf, who is the danger man, the one to watch?
Well, I mean, I haven't actually seen the teams yet, but what I would say, I think Shaqiri, even though he's an MLS player these days, he's getting on a bit, but he's still got a lot of quality. I think he's an impressive player, and I think he's scored Let me just get it up. He scored 31 goals for Switzerland in 123 games. He's played a lot. He's very experienced at the international level. So I think he's definitely one to look out for today. And then I think, in terms of the Hungarian side, I know we're going to speak about him in a bit more detail in a bit, but Szoboszlai for Liverpool, I think he's one to watch. He's sort of the midfield maestro. He's really going to dictate that Hungarian midfield. So I'd say he's definitely one to watch.
Well, you've touched on Dominic Szoboszlai there. And as I said, we have partnered with SofaScore, who've given us all of the stats. We've identified the key battle today being Liverpool's Dominic Szoboszlai against Arsenal's, former Arsenal and Bayer Leverkusen starlet now, Granit Xhaka. They've both had very, very impressive seasons. Obviously, Xhaka ended his season with more silverware. 4 goals for him, playing a little bit more deep. 2 assists. Just look at his heat map. He's absolutely everywhere. Is that the key battle for you today?
I mean, it has to be, doesn't it? I mean, I think, if we take Szoboszlai obviously for Hungary, I mean, 45 appearances for Liverpool this season, 7 goals, 4 assists, as shown on the screen there. Obviously, playing slightly more advanced than Xhaka might be with 4.2 expected goals. I think it was a very good signing for them. Obviously, they did sort of tail off toward the end of the season, but, he still had a very strong sort of debut campaign in the Premier League. And, he's scored 12 goals and 42 caps for Hungary. So I think he can definitely chip in with the goals if needs be. But, I mean, then you look at Granit Xhaka. I mean, 50 games for Leverkusen this season in arguably one of the greatest, campaigns of all time, losing 1 game. Obviously, that was the Europa League final. So it's sort of the trophy eclipsed Xhaka once again, as it did for Arsenal. But, I mean, look at that heat map. He's the engine in midfield. And I always thought that when he left Arsenal, he definitely had something more to give. And he's absolutely proved that. I think he's an incredible player, and I think he will play a big part for Switzerland this Euros. And I think, obviously, as Nathan said yesterday, he's probably quite lucky that he's captaining the side, so he can approach the referee without any fear of retribution.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have got Hungary as their dark horse favourites for this tournament. Any predictions for today?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be, I actually think it might be a fairly dull game. I think it might be a 1-1. I think they're quite evenly matched, but I actually would agree with Hungary being the dark horses. I mean, they've actually lost 1 out of their 18 last games. It's a pretty impressive
they're unbeaten
record
since 2022.
Yeah, well, I mean, either which way, they're in very good form, and they beat England home and away in the Nations League, which is pretty impressive. They won 5, drew 3 in qualifying, and they very nearly made it out of that group of death in Euro 2020. So I think, do not write the Hungarians off. I think they have a very strong side, and I think they they've got Marco Rossi as the manager, sort of experience at this level. I think I can really see why people would be calling them the dark horse.
Well, my favourite player is Callum Styles, English-born.
English-born.
He is hilarious. His story about how he's just found himself in the Hungarian national team because he coincidentally discovered that his grandma was from Hungary. Brilliant. So I hope he has a great tournament. I'm going for a 2-2 draw. I want your score prediction.
I think 1-1.
You're going for 1
I
or
think 1-1.
Fine. And obviously today's big game is where in the group of death, Group B, 5 o'clock, the first match, Spain take on Croatia. It was an 8-goal thriller at Euro 2020, and we have Haters' very own Rodrigo Lara on the ground in Berlin. Let's go live to him now, bearing no technical difficulties. Hello, Rodrigo. How are you?
Hello, Aaron, my friend. Good to see you. We are right now here behind me, the famous gate in Berlin. Ahead of this massive game between Croatia and Spain. We are surrounded by a lot of fans. It starts to rain right now, a little bit heavy. So if the camera starts to shake, it's because also the wind is pretty strong, but the atmosphere has been pretty lively in the last hour with all the Spanish fans. Let's see if we can speak a little bit with some Spanish fans. Guys, please come here. Yeah. Hello.
Oh, he's got a fan. Wow.
Some fans. So tell me, how do you feel for today?
So we expect that we win. We will win.
Your score prediction?
2-1.
2-1
for Spain.
What about Luka Modric?
Yeah, he's the best midfielder in the world, I think.
Okay.
But we have a lot of things to against with them.
Perfect, amazing. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
So here's some word from the Spanish supporters here live in Berlin, Aaron. As you can see, the rain is pretty heavy here in the capital of Germany.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you too long if it's raining really heavily, but can I have your prediction? Anything? Have you been to the press conferences? What have the managers and players been saying?
No, I haven't been to the match day -1 because last night and yesterday I was in Munich with also the Scottish pub right in the heart of Marienplatz. It was very lively. My score prediction for today, I think I'm gonna go for a 2-0 for Spain. Rodri is gonna score and probably Pedri as well, but it's not gonna be easy for Spain because Croatia also have a really good team. Remember Kovacic, Luka Modric, a lot of great names today in the Croatian squad. They have experience. They play World Cup finals. They've been involved in Euro semi-finals. So they have a really tough match today, the Spanish national team.
Gracias, mi amigo. Go get yourself undercover and enjoy the game. Well, I'm sure we'll see loads of your content on the Haters channels very soon.
Thank you, Aaron. Say hello to everyone, and please leave your comments, subscribe, and follow Haters TV. We are live here in Berlin. Thank you. Bye-bye.
What a man. What a guy. And okay, fine. Today is a big one. The group of death begins. It was an 8-goal thriller, as I said last time. This was actually the final of the Nations League as well, Spain versus Croatia. They've played each other the last 4 European Championships. How excited are you?
I mean, yeah, I'm buzzing. I think it's going to be a great game. I mean, I think that this group is, they've got 3 quality teams. And actually, I think Albania could have a little upset in them as well. I think, obviously, Spain are not as strong as they once were, sort of the 2008, 2010, 2012. That's pretty incredible feat. But they topped their group in qualifiers. They've got Luis de la Fuente as manager. He sort of favours, sort of dominating possession and centre forward play. I think Morata's going to play a big part in this tournament. And I think they've got a good mix of sort of, youth and experience. They've obviously got sort of Lamine Yamal. I think was it the other way around? Yeah, there we go. And obviously Pedri. And then obviously they've got a few sort of Oyarzabal, people like that who've sort of been around the block a little bit. Obviously with Croatia, haven't had as much success in the Euros as they have in the World Cup. Obviously 3rd place in 2022 in the World Cup and runners-up in 2018. But they have seen round of 16 exits for the last 2 Euros. But they always seem to find a way, don't they? It's quite interesting with Croatia because you sort of look at their squad and think, oh, this might be, one tournament too many for them. They're getting on a bit with the likes of Modric, Perisic, Kovacic, Kramaric even. These people, yeah, exactly. These players have been around for a long time, but they seem to always find a way. So I think this game is going to be an absolute cracker. Score prediction. I'm going to go a 3-2 win to Spain. I think it'll be quite a high scoring affair. I think it'll be a good opener for the group of death.
I hope you're right. But as we have done for every game so far, we have partnered with SofaScore, who have identified the key battle. It goes without saying, it's the 2 men in centre midfield, Rodri from Spain and Luka Modric from Croatia. Here are their stats from this season up above. Rodri is everywhere. Now, if you want to beat Spain, or if you want to beat Manchester City, as the likes of Scotland and Arsenal have shown, you play a little bit of anti-football, and Rodri does not like it at all. Do you recommend that Croatia do anything similar today?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, if it works, then I think you have to implement it because Rodri he's such an effective player for both club and country. He's a massive presence in that Man City midfield. He went that famous 50 league games unbeaten. And he always comes up with big goals as well. Scored in the Champions League final, scored on the final day versus West Ham this season. His average rating on SofaScore is 7.95. That's massive. That shows how important he is for both club and country. And I think, they're going to need to keep him quiet if they have any chance of winning. On the other side of things with Luka Modric, I mean, that man does not slow down. He's 38 years old and he started 39 out of 46 games that he played this season for Real Madrid. With the likes of, the sort of emerging stars, Bellingham, Camavinga, Valverde, Tchouaméni in Real Madrid, and he's still taking their places week in, week out. It's pretty impressive. He's an absolute technician. He's a leader. He's done it before on the World Cup stage, maybe not so much Euros, but he'll be looking to go out with a bang in his last international tournament. And yeah, he's staying at Real Madrid one more season. So, I mean, he's aged like fine wine. I think it's going to be a great battle in the middle of the park. I think, Rodri is everywhere, but Modric, he's got something special with the ball. And I think, yeah, it's going to be a great game.
A Ballon d'Or winner. I remember him 16 years ago at Euro 2008. Spurs. I don't really like complimenting Spurs that much, but they did their business very well that summer because they signed him before the tournament. So his stock value couldn't increase. They'd already got him. And in the opening game, he scored within a couple of minutes. And the world just knew about him from there. And he was just absolutely fantastic forevermore. So Spain versus Croatia, it's It's meant to be a cracker. You're going for 3-2 to Spain.
I am. It might be a bit out there, but I mean, why not? It's predictions.
I don't know what I'm going for. But I part of me agrees with you. But for just to go back at you, I'm going to go 2-1 to Spain.
Okay.
Fine. The second game in the group of death is a little less deathly. Is Italy versus Albania. We'll touch on that in just a second. But Italy are trying to do something that only Spain have done. Spain are the only team ever to win back-to-back European Championships in 2008 and 2012. Who was your favourite player from back in that era?
For me, it's got to be Iniesta. I mean, I have to say I'm slightly young to remember Euro 2008, but I mean, the World Cup 2010, his ability to sort of get out of tight spaces while remaining sort of so composed, so balanced. I mean, he just made it look easy, didn't he? And obviously, he had a lot of, flair and skill to him as well. I mean, he didn't look like a sort of, very skillful footballer, but he definitely played the part very well. I mean, the winning goal in the World Cup 2010 versus the Netherlands is one of my first sort of real football memories, really sort of staying up late to watch it. So I think I have to put him as my favourite player. What about you?
Well, when I was a kid, as an Arsenal fan, we just loved Fabregas.
Yeah.
I feel really bad for Fabregas when it comes to Spanish football because, yes, he played a big part of it all, but you think of the midfield, the Spanish midfield, and it's Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, Xabi Alonso. There were so many. But Fabregas always came in clutch for Spain. The amount of penalties that he scored for Spain as well in Euro 2008 and Euro 2012. And the only man really that I think is still in the squad from that golden era is Jesus Navas.
Yeah,
he's in the squad for this tournament. I don't know whether he'll get many minutes.
Still pretty impressive.
It is very impressive.
Very impressive longevity.
Rodri, he's the man everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
Can you compare him to one of the old guard?
Put him on the spot there. I mean, I think, I'm trying to think of the holding midfielders of that generation, sort of Xabi Alonso, people like that. But I think Rodri's sort of one of his own. He's a very interesting player, isn't he? Because, you look at him and you think he's going to be, very comfortable in that sort of holding midfield role, which he very much is. But then he really sort of chips in the attacking phases as well. So I think, I'm not one who compares very well. But I think he's quite unique, that man.
He is unique. He is absolutely brilliant. But as we said, Italy are trying to replicate what Spain did 12 years ago. Is tonight's match a foregone conclusion?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a foregone conclusion. I actually think it's a case of two very strong defenses going up against each other. I mean, you've got Bastoni for Inter is sort of going to be leading that Italian back line, and he was he was part of the Italian the Inter Milan defense that only conceded 22 goals this season on their way to the Serie A title. But that being said, Albania are actually very strong in defense also. They conceded the third fewest goals in qualifiers, only behind France and Portugal, which I actually found out today, and I think that's quite an interesting stat. But the difference in the teams is that Italy have the strength in attack also. They've got their main man, sort of Federico Chiesa, but Scamacca has been very impressive this year as well. With Atalanta, I thought he played very well in the Europa League final. And as good as Albania's defense might be, they do lack quality in attack. I mean, they've got Armando Broja from Chelsea. He was on loan at Fulham this season, appeared 8 times to the club and scored no goals. So, I mean, not the best loan spell for him. So, yeah, I think not necessarily a foregone conclusion, but I probably do have Italy coming out on top on this one.
Well, you say Italy are good in attack, but no player scored more than 3 goals for Italy in qualifying. Just put you on the spot there.
Yeah.
Are there any comments in the chat that we should get to?
There are. Right, well, let's look. So we've got quite a few. Jerry Cox is saying, this is back to sort of Kai Havertz saying, bet he wishes he could play Scotland every week, which I think is very true, very true. And Tamina Ahmed has said, sad news about Kevin Campbell, which I know we're going to touch on at one point as well. George Thompson says 3-0 to Spain. So he's not giving the Croatians any chance at all. That's all I have for now, but just quickly going back to Golden Boot winner. Still Harry Kane leading the charge, but Florian Wirtz has actually dropped down into 4th position, and Ronaldo and Mbappe are tied with the second most votes. So I mean, quite a split opinion, but Harry Kane definitely leading the charge, and I think he's going to have a very strong campaign with England, isn't he? I mean, the European Golden Boot winner scored the most out of any striker in Europe's top 5 leagues. He's a good player. I'm glad we have him on our squad.
I'm very glad as well that someone touched upon Kevin Campbell. He was obviously a friend of Haters TV managing director Nick Callow. Really unfortunate news of the passing of the former Arsenal Everton striker. Hopefully England can can do him some justice, or
do him proud.
Do him proud.
Bring it home for him, absolutely.
Back to Italy. You touched upon the Inter Milan defence.
Yes.
Now today we're seeing two Inter Milan centre midfielders going head to head. Again, SofaScore have provided us with the stats of these two, which should be coming on the screen right now. Yes, Nicolo Barella and Christian Asliani. They both played very big roles for Inter Milan this season in their Scudetto win. Not exactly goal-scoring midfielders, but they kind of do that. They just get the job done. 4.4 ball recoveries per game for Barella, 2.48 for Asllani. They're very good at passing. Any comments?
Yeah, I mean, well, Barella obviously, he's played 48 matches, leading to their sort of Scudetto win. He's very versatile, and I think he will play a very pivotal role for this Italian side. Yeah, I mean, you just have to look at his ball recoveries per game, 4.40. It's up there in his heat map. He's an engine. He won't stop running for the side. I think he's a quality player, and he'll definitely run the show in the middle of the park. Then you look at the other side, and you've got sort of Asllani, who's also at Inter Milan, and they're their teammates. But he's sort of the glue in this Albanian side. He sort of plays sort of the number 6 role, that holding midfield, and he's he provides the link between the defense and the attack. Even though I might have slated their attack a little bit, he still provides that link, and he's very comfortable with his passing. He's very good at that. As you can see, sort of 92.7% passing accuracy is a pretty insane stat when you think about it. And he's good at the long balls as well. So 66.7%. That's just over 2/3 of his long passes are successful. So I think probably if Albania are to stand a chance in scoring in this game, it's going to be with one of those Asllani balls, playing it over the top. Maybe Broja finds some form and puts one in the back of the net, but we will see.
Let's get your score prediction.
I think Italy 2-0. I think not a foregone conclusion, but I think the Italians' quality will shine through.
That's such a safe bet. I'm gonna go a little bit more out there. I'm gonna go for Albania to take the lead.
Right.
Go 1-0 up.
Okay.
But Italy to come back, claw it back, as you should do as the reigning champions, and win 3-1. So same scoreline.
Okay.
But I think Albania will score. Now on to the more fun part of the show, transfer news. During the tournament, it is the transfer window. There's so many things that could happen. Let's actually start with Kieran Tierney. We didn't prep for this.
We did not.
But it's coming to my mind. We should speak about him. We saw him speak earlier. Looked very miserable.
Mm-hmm.
He clearly doesn't really fit into Arteta's system at Arsenal. Do you see him going anywhere this summer?
I mean, I haven't personally seen any links. I'm sure there are, but as you say, I mean, I don't think he really fits into Arteta's system. He has been sort of, dogged down and plagued by injuries throughout his sort of Arsenal tenure, but I think it's clear that sort of Arteta is going to find a way not to put him in the team, really, which it's a bit of a shame. He's a very talented player, obviously. One of the more important and more experienced and better players for Scotland, I'd say. I'm sure lots of clubs will be lining up, sort of to get his signature, and we'll be looking at him. So I think I can see him moving on, because realistically, as much as Arsenal do have, a lot of football to play next season, I think if he's not got in the team, he's probably not going to at this point.
Reminder that you can put in all of your transfer rumours in the chats, and we will get to them in just a moment. But obviously, the big one this summer is going to be all about Manchester United. Everything's always about Manchester United. Erik ten Hag is staying. And this morning, I've seen rumours of a link with De Ligt. What do you think?
I think it'd be a great signing. I mean, well, here's the thing. Obviously, United's conceded 58 goals in the Premier League this season. They scored 57, so a goal difference of -1. There were obviously massive problems, massive holes in the defence. I mean, we can't look past they have been dogged down by injuries. Sort of Varane, Martinez and Maguire have all been out for extended periods. And they'd all be in contention to start in the centre-half position. I think De Ligt would be a good signing, though. He's a very reliable player. He's worked under Ten Hag before, which is always a plus. And they need to, if United are going to be back in sort of contention with even the top 4 spots, let alone sort of pushing for the upper echelon, I think they need to sort out those problems in defense. Obviously, injuries don't help, but every club has injuries. And I think bringing in somebody with that quality and that experience of leadership as well. When he was at Ajax, De Ligt was I remember seeing a speech he did after they got knocked out by Spurs in the Champions League final, and gave me goosebumps. So I think he'd be a good addition to the Manchester side. So yeah.
Well, obviously, last night when you saw Angus Gunn's fingertips, the ball crawling past for two of those goals, made me think about goalkeepers. And Man United did have a bit of a disaster this season with Andre Onana.
Yeah.
Do you think they need to think about replacing him?
I think it's difficult to say. I mean, with goalkeepers, obviously they're going to be scrutinised much quicker than any other player. Because think about, say, for example, Kai Havertz, 65 million this past summer. Took quite a while to settle into Arteta's system, but then came good. I think goalkeepers, if they have a few howlers, sort of week in, week out, at the start of their career, they're going to be scrutinised. But I don't think Onana was necessarily terrible this season. I think there were definitely some times where he did sort of bail United out. Obviously, he had a very disjointed, I can't even begin to imagine the number of iterations of that back four in United this season. It must have been, upwards of, 30, 40, I don't know. But I think definitely with a sort of cohesive back four in front of him, I think it'd be fair to give him a bit of time, because also, he was, I think he was the Serie A goalkeeper of the year, the year before when Inter reached the Champions League final. So, yeah, it's difficult to say, but I think he deserves a chance,
Well, not this Onana in particular, but there is another link with another Onana.
That
was a mouthful to say. Amadou Onana to Arsenal. That's been everywhere. Do you think he'd fit into the Arsenal team?
Definitely. I think the thing with Arteta is that he will get the best out of every player. I think he's a very, very good manager, and I think he's been very unlucky to be going up against Pep. I'm sure Jurgen Klopp will have a lot of stories to tell him about that. I think he'd be a great signing. I think we've seen Declan Rice sort of playing slightly more advanced than maybe many Arsenal fans thought he would play when they signed him. Sort of in that number 8 role, sort of box to box midfield. So they need somebody, sort of a long term replacement for Thomas Partey, who I think more likely than not is going to be departing the club this summer. So I think Onana will be perfect. He's 22 years old, and he's often been one of Everton's better players this season. He's comfortable playing in that sort of holding midfield position, but can push up and sort of, I think he's a decent threat at set pieces as well, which obviously Arsenal were, a lot of their goals came from set pieces this season. So adding another player into that will give them even more of a threat. So I think, he's a very exciting talent, and I think Arteta could definitely get the best out of him.
And on the ticker on your screen, you may have seen that Arsenal are apparently willing to let Emile Smith-Rowe go for bids around about the 30 million mark. Where do you think he could play next season? Or do you think he should stay at Arsenal?
Well, I think Arsenal are going to have a lot, as they did this season, they're going to have a lot of football to play. I think Smith-Rowe sort of, I think he sort of burst onto the scene in a way, a few years ago.
Like Michael Richards.
Exactly like Michael Richards. A few years ago, and sort of, he was playing well, and he was sort of, Arsenal's next big thing. He's the Arsenal number 10. Do you know what I mean? It's not it's quite a big number to be wearing on your back. But I think there's definitely a case for staying at Arsenal, but also they're going to be looking to bring in more quality players. The more money they make from, going for, well, obviously they didn't go that far in the Champions League, but, they're going to be investing this summer. I think maybe for his career, it might be better to go somewhere, but he obviously wants to stay at the level of a Premier League club. He is a Premier League talent. So I think, I'm sure maybe some of the teams that are sitting slightly more in the sort of, 7 to 12 sort of positions might have a look at him. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I think he will definitely want to stay in the Premier League. He's shown he can perform at this level. So, you wouldn't want to drop down, I don't know if he'd be open to a move abroad, but I guess time will tell.
Any comments coming through? Any transfer requests, answers?
Not that I can see on my screen, but Gloom actually just said Arsenal is going to need a striker, and I think that's actually a very interesting point. Well, we touched on Kai Havertz a lot, but is he enough to sort of propel Arsenal to a title, to a high Champions League finish? Well, to winning it. I think Arsenal needing a striker is definitely a problem that they need to address. Jesus hasn't quite lived up to expectation. He sort of started off his Arsenal career very well, dogged down by injuries, but I think they need an out-and-out number 9. I know they've looked at Toney, which could be quite interesting, but I think Ivan Toney is actually quite lucky to be in the England squad this year. He hasn't been amazing since coming back from his ban.
Completely agree with you.
Obviously, I think he's very good at penalties, and we all know we need good penalty takers in tournament football. But yeah, no, I think Gloom has touched on it very well. The Arsenal are going to need a striker just to push them. Obviously, City of Haaland. He's pretty good.
He is actually.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call myself an Arsenal expert, but yeah, I am.
Naturally.
I think we do need a striker.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure we need a starting striker. Why? Our goals, I'm an Arsenal fan, were coming from everywhere last season, and Havertz was instrumental to that. So does he need to be replaced? Not really. Do we need other options? Yes. And if we can get them, let's get them straight away. I think Gyökeres would be a very good signing if we can get him. Unfortunately, Sesko is now staying at Leipzig, so we can't have him. Loads of rumours of Isak. There's rumours of Vlahovic again. I can't deal with that saga. It's a no from me, just because the heartbreak of that transfer window way back when. Another man that's in, well, with transfer shouts every 15 minutes is Eberici Eze.
Indeed.
What have you seen from him?
Well, I mean, talks are that he has a release clause around the region of 60 million, which obviously in this sort of day and age, I'm not going to say it isn't that much because obviously it's a massive investment, but I think we could definitely see that being triggered this summer. I know Tottenham are interested in him. He's very versatile. He can sort of play in that number 10 position, can play off the left. I don't think he's really played off the right that much, but I think this tournament is definitely going to raise his stock a lot. I mean, I was actually covering the England versus Bosnia match up at St James's Park a few weeks ago, and he started on the left, and he was electric. He was very good. And Southgate said in his post-match press conference, he says, "I know Eze would have caught a lot of people's eyes," and I think he definitely has. And this is the interesting thing about transfer windows within international tournaments. Players' stock can rise and drop like that. So I think he's definitely going to garner a lot of interest from a lot of clubs. He's a top talent. He's electric. He's exciting to play. I think a lot of people want their team to sign, exciting players, as you would. So yeah, I think who knows where he'll end up, but I wouldn't be surprised, obviously, that release clause getting triggered.
Well, for all the players we've discussed today, for all of the matches, I highly recommend that you download SofaScore. You can do so by scanning the little icon, the QR code, wherever it is on screen. I don't know where my hands are going. Very much recommend that. But that's all we have time for today. You've been watching the Haters Daily Euro 2024 show. I've been your host, Aaron Goldstein, joined with Raf Tyndale. And now all I can say before we see you tomorrow for an England coverage is go and watch Hungary versus Switzerland.